Marcie, great to have you here. Really excited to chat about one of my favorite, and I think one of the more complicated, nebulous topics around pricing and monetization. You are running that pod or group at Snyk, is that right? Can you tell us a bit
Yep.
more about what that means? What do you do?
Yeah, definitely. So on the product side of things, as we're thinking about different pieces of how the landscape is changing, one of the things that we wanted to double click on a little bit more is around our pricing model. As SaaS is the ever evolving industry for pricing. And if you can think of it, you can probably price on it. And the idea is for us, we really want to be able to align the value of our product with price. So the idea is currently we're running on a contributing developer model, which is great. And it's very reliable, very transparent. But also, are there other mechanisms that we could be thinking of that would be also be beneficial to both the customer and Snyk? So as we think about pricing and monetization, there's a little bit of packaging involved as well. Specifically, I work with every part of the Snyk ecosystem, everyone from strategy, ops, pricing, marketing, legal, and then, of course, working with our engineering teams to ensure that we have the proper workflows and mechanisms to be able to do this.
And so is this essentially a growth team focused on pricing, or is it different to a product growth team? Like, how would you think about those or compare those?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. The I would say that the mandate is probably very similar to a growth team, but our approach is slightly, maybe just a little bit slightly different. As growth is a driving factor for us, but it is not the only reason that we are pursuing or that we're thinking about pricing and monetization. Obviously, we wouldn't want to implement a strategy that decreases customers or ARR at any cost, but growth isn't the only North Star that we have with that. Yeah.
And so how do you think about the North Star? Is it revenue or is it like value per customer or something?
Yeah, I definitely think that when you're building, it doesn't matter how insightful, sophisticated your pricing strategy is if your customers don't buy it. And the way that customers buy into it is when they actually see value from your product. So definitely it's much more aligned to what type of value are we creating for customers and how do we monetize on that?
Okay. Maybe you can help us better understand how you operate by describing the process a little bit from when you have an idea or what does it look like? Go from research to idea to like validation to solution to live and getting data back. And what is the cycle? What it just if you give get me that'd be really interesting. Actually.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the first things is I feel pretty lucky to be in this role because coming into a company like Snyk that has 5 different products that operate very differently, having that pre-existing knowledge of the customer value stream is really important as you move into a role like pricing at Snyk. And it's because I can easily narrow in on which points the customer actually finds value. For example, is the value in the test? Maybe. Is the value actually in the number of vulnerabilities that we found? Maybe. Or is there actually more value in customers receiving fix recommendations for those vulnerabilities, right? As you think about the funnel, that's how we start from a top level. And pricing is definitely art and science. I think that's probably said multiple times over, but very real. And the first piece that we look at is, again, what are the things that are driving customers to use Snyk? Let's take fix recommendations as an example. If we know that, is that something we can meter and bill on? One, is it instrumented properly? Two, do we have a monitoring mechanism around it? Three is from the R&D side, is there a way to integrate this with some sort of limit? So there's these R&D considerations, but then as you are a B2B SaaS company, there's the entire consideration of the field teams. So these are the AEs, the SEs, the TSMs. It's very different than a B2C model where, in B2C, you could probably just introduce another plan, customers can react. But no, with B2B, not only are you trying to educate the customer, you have to educate the field teams and get
Mhm.
them bought in so they can also educate the customer.
And
So
there might be compensation impacts and other enablement impact as well, right? So that
exactly,
adds a lot of complexity to it.
exactly.
So then how do you decide? It's a relatively big undertaking
Mhm.
to make a change or implement something like that.
Yeah.
How do you decide like whether to do it or not?
So we actually, the way that we do it is we have these things called pitches where you can pitch your idea and there are certain stages in which you can get alignment or approval around it. The more momentum that you get, the more people will see it and the higher up it'll go. End of the day, if you have a really great pitch, you're getting the alignment, you have the resources to do it, very much we can implement. And by implement, the first thing is obviously running a very small experiment, taking X percentage of our customers and seeing how they could react to this. This could be something as easy as just going to the customer and talking to them about this, or we could actually implement for, again, a very small swath of customers. So there is the gaining momentum alignment phase, there's the approval phase, and then there's the, I would call it more of an MVP type of phase to validate in the market.
Okay. And has anything worked or anything that you clearly hasn't worked? Any kind of takeaways from time implementing some?
Yeah. One of the ones that I had pitched a while ago was what I realized was the reason why it wasn't successful is because our own it wasn't in our common dictionary of terms that we use at Snyk. And in hindsight, this seems pretty clear. But if you are introducing a new metric, ideally it's something that people are already talking about, whether it be tests or repos, vulnerabilities. If you're trying to bring in something like fixes and no one's talking about fixes, it becomes a huge uphill battle, even if that potentially is the best metric that aligns most closely with customer value. It doesn't matter because no one knows what it is.
And that's especially, it's also relevant when comparing solutions because then they don't have apples to apples comparisons, which can also cause confusion and can add risk to the sales process.
100%. What are your buyers actually? What are they used to? And how far does this deviate from how they traditionally buy products?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. So if another company is thinking about spinning up a pricing team or starting to do some pricing experiments, advice that you'd have for them? It sounded like something around instrumentation, around the key value proposition. Any other advice for that for those teams?
Yeah. For me, what's been very helpful is having a group of people in the field, as well as a group of customers that are willing to just brainstorm and bat around ideas with. Very low tech way to validate your pricing metric before you launch. And I think that is much more important than finding the right metric. It's making sure that people are on board aligned to what this is before even thinking about, is this the right one? Yeah.
I love how like even at a large company or late stage company, we're still back to basics in terms
Uh-huh.
of non-scalable research and user testing. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, just to wrap up, a couple of last questions. What are your go-to resources for learning new stuff in your realm and product generally?
Yeah. I'm a big fan of Lenny's podcast. I love obviously the podcast itself. I'm a member, so I read through the transcripts and the site and they're just great kind of weekly articles that come out and they have a great Slack community as well. So
Yeah,
probably my number one.
I love it too. It's great. And then what's a product you use regularly and love?
Ah, sound like a very cliche tech person right now, but the past couple months I've been using my Aura ring and it's, for those who don't know, it's a biometric ring that helps you detect various aspects of your sleep or your exercise, energy levels, which I think is really interesting. And yeah, I use that multiple times a day. And it's probably to a point where the Aura ring is telling me how I'm feeling now instead of me actually feeling these things. But no, it's
It's
great.
like Inception. It's like Inception.
We're there. We're there. Yeah. But it's a great product. Yeah.
Yeah, great recommendation. Cool. Okay, thank you for wrapping up. I feel like we're going to talk for 4x the time that we had, but this was really great.
Yeah.
Little interest, like scratching the surface of the, it's like